Good evening. This is the regular session of the Public Works Committee to the RTM. Today is Thursday, February 15. We're going to get started, so thank you all for coming. First thing on our agenda this evening is approval of the minutes. I recirculated those. All good?
I think so.
Okay.
Bronco car lights are off.
You know, I had it set to automatic, and it wasn't.
That's so scary.
But they're off now.
File a complaint with Ford Motor Company.
It wouldn't be the first time.
So good, so that's settled.
That was the first agenda item.
First agenda. item.
That was
well,
better. You got that wrong?
Approval of the minutes. Did anyone have a chance to review and have any comments on the minutes?
I read the minutes.
I wrote them.
Okay. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes? Paige, second? Okay. Got it. All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Our second item on the agenda is, as we do almost every year, I can't think of a year we didn't do it, Ed. Ed is joining us to give us an update on the budget process. The budget has been put forth by the town administrator, has gone through the Board of Selectmen just last week. I think I circulated some links to some of the most recent coverage, which really kind of drilled down on, I'll call it the remaining items to be debated, discussed, adjusted up or down. Most of the line items had already been resolved prior to those two pieces. So with that, it usually makes sense to go over with Ed things that he put forth. We've all been through, hopefully most of us have been through the budget online or some of those sessions. So Ed, we're familiar with the budget. Okay. So first off, let me say thank you for making time to join us, as you always do this time of year. And so most of us are familiar with the budget. We've gone through it, some of the late sessions where some of the adjustments were made by the Board of Selectmen. And so I'll turn it over to you. We're going to take it however you wish. I know I sent a couple of minor questions to you.
Did.
Given some of the items that came up in the discussions, especially the Board of Selectmen.
Did. And I don't know if there's anyone has any particular questions on any particular line items that they may have seen and had questions about. That's generally kind of Kate walking through the budget, and that's what she did this year. So first of all, thank you for having me. Once a year I get to do this, which is kind of fun. I usually turn the budget over to Kate in December, and I don't usually get to talk about it for a while. So this is just kind of a refresher for me before I go in for the Board of Finance also. Right. So she generally walks through the major changes, and I can do that. I can hit some of the highlighted ones. You hit some of them in some of your notes too that you sent me. We'll get to those too, because there's some really explanations I need to go with that. So, and generally I would start off with the management and engineering of the Public Works, and there really wasn't much as far as changes goes, a dollar value, some of the percentages, but nothing substantial in that area. In the road and walkway maintenance, there was some adjustments that I did make, all in the positive area. I actually reduced some of my budgetary line items for paving services, software and tree maintenance, and the paving services was generally just some of the material that I use for catch basins and things. I've ordered so many of them and put so many of them in. We're pretty much caught up on some of the work that needed to be done, so I backed off on some of that material. There was some,
if I can interrupt on that, catch basin maintenance, what would that be? Is that
repair of the structure, either the grate on the top, or if we take it down, it still needs to be reconstructed. We buy parts to go down, 6 feet.
Got it.
To do a reconstruction or a full reconstruction if needed.
Okay.
And so should I just imagine like a concrete box that feeds into the wastewater system?
A concrete box that feeds into a storm drainage system. So grate on top, look in, you'll see generally has one pipe going out.
Right.
Some of it's older concrete block. The salt has done damage to it. We've been replacing those since those two larger storms. We've been replacing a lot of them because of the washouts.
Thank you.
There was some software numbers that we saved on, it was almost 50%. We changed GPS software, and now our GPS software actually does maintenance, update, and tracking. So we have both in one. So you'll see that I've added money in another section, the telecommunications section. And finally, there's a $150,000 tree budget that I use quite a bit of it throughout the year. But we have been able to get caught up on quite a few of our backlog in that area. So I shaved about 10 grand off of that. A lot of these were me trying to balance what we'll talk about in a while in waste management and the new contract that's coming up. So I tried to soften the blow, if you will. I mean, it's a large number. Whatever I could do to balance it, I gave it my best shot. The telecommunications was the other big one. I added about 4 or 5 grand. That's the new GPS software. It actually can tell you when things need to be done instead of relying on the employees that drive the cars to tell you when the red light comes on. If you guys can experience that, sometimes the employees may forget to let you know.
Yeah.
So, there's a few. I think the two big ones that have been changing a lot, and you'll see that I deal with all the commodities for the town, is the electric and the gas. And it's been very hard to predict them. And they've been changing throughout the year. They don't wait. So if you can imagine, in December, I'm trying to predict a full 18 months out for that year, and trying to see if I can lock it in. Last year, I bumped it up because of the way the rates went up. Lo and behold, halfway through the year, they dropped them back down again. So now I'm using an average to kind of balance that out and kind of bring down some of the cost, and not try to take too big of a hit if they jump back up again.
And commodities would be oil, gas, electric?
Oil, gas, electric, water, fuel, gasoline, diesel. You want to throw cable in there too, I handle that, and the phones, and just about everything else along those lines.
I do your job at my house, and
Do you?
it's not easy. Yeah.
I guess the last one is bigger for tires. We offset our loader tires every other year. So every other year I replace 4. And every other year I replace 2. And it doesn't make sense, but I recycle the better ones and replace them when I can. Sometimes we take a hit in the dump or out in the street on one of the tires where I actually have to get rid of it. But I can't just replace one of them. I have to actually replace both sides, one in the 2 in the front or 2 in the back. I just can't keep switching them out.
So this was an in-year or an out-year? Okay.
This coming forward is only 2 tires. So this is we're in a good place this year. Next year, I'll bump it up by 7 grand to cover all 4 of the tires. So that's the roadway piece. I'm going to skip over waste management. We'll come back to that because I think everyone has some good questions on that or has some questions on
The
that.
story.
And yeah, there's a story behind that one. Building management, again, potable water, electric. The uniforms, I don't know if you know that the new contract for the Public Works Union bumped up their clothing allowance, so that took a hit in not only my building, but the DPW garage also, so an additional $100 per person for their uniforms. And that's been pretty steady since I've been here, so I think it was long overdue and why it was into the contract. And my last of the 5 is parking. Really nothing of substantial to talk about in there at all. I usually keep that pretty steady. What's really good is between this parking and the parking fund, they kind of work with each other as far as the gentlemen that work for me. I'll split their time between the 2 and able to manage the facilities both. Commuter lots owned by the DOT and state and our town-owned lots.
So when you say manage it, it's
Maintenance.
covering the cost, the revenues are covering the cost?
In the parking fund, it does. There's usually an excess there.
Can I ask a question about that? I know we hired that extra ranger. Has that worked out the way it was expected to? And
The 2 gentlemen that we just recently hired have been fantastic. We've been doing more ticketing now. We have both of our programs, and ticketing machine's now up and running. They're out there every other day. We kind of rotate the days so that the commuters don't get a handle on when we do it. We don't do it every day because they're out actually doing other maintenance stuff. So we kind of change it up on them. Friday, not a good ticket day because no one actually commutes anymore. Literally, it's a third of the lot is full, so the other 4 days.
Why
we
is he
can-
on my street at 6:45 in the morning every day?
do
That's
you-
a question for you later. We'll see.
You just asked him now.
Yeah. No, a red parking, Darien Parking Authority
At
car.
6:45?
Yeah, yeah.
Really? We don't start till 7.
Well,
And that truck doesn't leave the garage, so that,
You serving
we just,
coffee?
has it been lately, really?
yeah, I've seen it several times.
6:45 in
Yeah.
the morning.
Planning to do.
Okay, well.
Check the
Uh-oh.
GPS.
Yes.
Guess what I have?
We're committed to donut to late, not a big deal, but,
So,
Moving on.
Ed, question?
sure.
All the work that's going on at the main Darien train station, I guess, is done by an outside contractor. Do you guys have any engagement or role in that whole project? The platform
If
replacement?
I describe it
and-
as distant oversight, I think
Okay.
that would be the best. I do have a little bit of influence on certain things.
Okay.
We talked about parking.
Yeah, parking seems like it's.
We talk about the giving up of the spaces.
Okay.
The original project was supposed to be 4 phases. And a year and a half ago, when they put it out to bid and found that Eversource wasn't going to cooperate with some of the work that needed to be done, it delayed the project by about 9 months because they had to rebid everything, reissue the drawings. So what they did is they combined and made 2 phases.
Yeah.
Which, to be honest with you, I know the
It's gonna
impact of
go
the
quicker,
parking is
right?
more, but what's ending up happening is going to shorten the schedule.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think that's important, too. I took away some of the spaces I gave them in the Leroy lot to use for staging. They were going to take up more space, but as soon as they went to a 2-phase project, I took some of them back because I was going to need them
Okay.
to supplement what they've taken from the station area.
Okay.
So we've done that. But all in all, they've been pretty cooperative. I know they're moving along pretty good. They've taken the platforms out, it looks like on both
Yeah.
sides.
The arcbound side.
Yeah.
And they're moving along pretty good right now.
Yeah.
Even through the winter, I thought it was going to slow them down a little bit, but the weather has cooperated somewhat in doing the demo work, so.
Okay.
But like everything else, if you guys have complaints, or anyone you talk to has complaints, please let them get a hold of me. Get in touch with me so I can deal with that. And that's the one thing I told these folks I would do over there. Banton Construction's been good with us as far as handling and addressing the complaints.
Is that where that was coming from, Pat? Just curiosity?
Well, first of all, I
You're
remember
there.
reading it was a 4-phase project, and then they tore apart both sides at the same time. So that suggested something had changed, but
Yeah.
you just explained that. And the parking, I park somewhere else on Mechanic Street, but
Yeah.
that whole area, they've had to create pedestrian ways, and people are trying to back out. It's
It's a little tight over there. A little tight. My hope is this time, well, by September, October of next year,
That's what the
or
sign.
this year, I'm sorry, this year, they'll have that side done.
The,
Let's say the
Eastbound.
east
Eastbound.
side of the station, both eastbound and westbound sides.
Right.
But the section they just demoed, they should have done by October 2024.
okay.
And my hope is they have the elevators back up and working, and those areas down around there back open again. And I think that will relieve a lot of the pressure that we're feeling right now.
Yeah.
And then they'll go to the west end.
They will go to they'll flip to the other side. That's not done yet.
And can I just follow up also?
Sure.
The one area that you didn't cover in your general overview, or you did tangentially, was sidewalks. So I don't know if there's a specific budget for sidewalks, if there's a roster of activity for sidewalks. And,
It'll come in the capital piece of it,
okay.
and there's a couple questions on sidewalks, so.
We're not
we'll do-
operating right
We'll
now.
do operating, and then we'll go
Got it.
capital.
Okay.
I don't want to ever miss sidewalks.
Very well, I'm just on your team on that.
Sidewalks up there, yeah.
Team sidewalk.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about solid waste disposal.
Here we go.
So if you folks don't know, our contract comes due June 30th of this year. We've been negotiating with Win Waste, also known as City Carting, for about 6 months. They've given us 2 or 3 proposals. We finally gave them back our responses about 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. And we're waiting to hear back from them on some of the items we decided that they needed to change in their proposal. Without getting into too many of the details, of course, they're looking for an increase in their base oversight and management. They're looking to combine what we had separated before, which is recycling management, MSW, transfer station management. They want to put them together, make them one solid cost. We're contemplating doing that for now, seeing what numbers they come back with. We asked them to make some modifications. So, but the big item is for everyone is recycling. We were, yeah.
I'm sorry. Did we ever look at trying to use compactors for the recycling aspect of it? What I mean are like 30-yard dumpsters, the 20-yard dumpsters that we put the recycled cardboard, plastic, and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
Did we ever think about trying to use compactor in order to, A, try to help to keep the place a little cleaner, and B, try to maximize what you're using? Because we pay by the tons when we dispose of that, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
So by using an enclosed compactor, the material isn't getting wet, so we're not paying for wet material to get hauled to wet, so we could try to reduce costs to try to make it a little easier. Is that, I mean, there's a little upfront cost.
Yeah.
Because you gotta run your electric lines and all that nature. Did we ever consider something like that?
We haven't thought about expanding the compacting system that we have over there now, but I can tell you the compacting system has been down for quite a few months. The mess over there has been at best bearable. Part of their new contract that we're writing, and we're going to request that they put in, and they've said that they would, capital improvements, including the ones to the compactors. Now, those compactors handle both, as you guys are aware of. They handle both the MSW and the recycling, so those two are contained. But the outside bins, we really haven't thought about going to that extent right now, but it's something we can look at. So the recycling numbers, let's talk about that. Before this contract ends, as of right now, we're getting $7.50 a ton. We pull in about 30 to 35,000 a year in revenue, just for the recycling. Now, currently, the haulers come in and they dump for free, and we take it, and we generally make and produce a revenue from that the recycling that's brought in. The new proposal from City Carting is that we pay for the recycling. And they want to charge us right now $75 a ton.
So that's a swing from 35.
Yep.
From
$7
7 in
to 70
75 out.
out.
So, you know,
Yeah.
the 10 times factor.
And
Wow.
change direction.
Thank you for that.
What is the reasoning behind that? This is what I was trying to figure out today. Are people recycling less? Is it costing more? Why that switch?
The market for recycling has pretty much
Driving.
tanked. You know, going-
Okay.
I was looking for a professional
No,
word, but that pretty much.
No,
is
that's
it.
a good word,
It's pretty
okay.
much.
There's
that.
some,
Going that way for
actually,
years.
some materials have gone up a little bit,
Yeah.
but for the most part, you know, a lot of it's paper, and that's definitely down.
The paper market right now is the one that's actually driving everything.
Is it?
It's going up. And that goes with our conversation of their proposal is $75 a ton, but as part of it, there's a rebate that comes with it. And if you look in the budget, you're going to see that there's a revenue line item for the rebate. And the rebate is based on our paper quality that we've been providing to them as a recycled item. And our recycling is, it's on a higher end tier, if you will. It comes back, it's cleaner, it's less contaminated, so that puts us in a little different area where their proposal is a little bit more beneficial to the town. And I'm sorry if I'm dancing around stuff. I don't want to give you some information, but I don't want to publicly let everyone know what I'm thinking or them thinking, but, you know, the town has to look out for their best interests, and I think I expressed that to them. But the rebate is based on the paper quality and the monthly paper returns, and we'll get 80% of that. So let me give you an example. Right now, between export and importing areas, it is running somewhere between $45 and $55 a ton rebate. So we pay 75, but their rebate to us is 55. So the difference is $20 a ton. Now, it could change. right? It's a market.
It's on paper
It's
tonnage.
That's under just paper.
It's just paper.
Just paper.
And looking at the market, and you can go on these index and take a look at it, it has pretty much leveled out and stayed there for the last year or so. And like I said, one of our better qualities with our recycling is our lack of contamination in it. So that's put us in a better position to negotiate with them.
So you're optimistic then that we would enjoy some rebate?
I'm optimistic that we enjoyed a decent rebate.
Okay.
I think is a good way to put it, you know. Now, I built my budget based on their original proposal. So this is worst case scenario is what you're looking at. I'm hopeful to knock and reduce that as I go through the negotiating process. As hard as I pushed last year to try to get it done before December, because I wanted to make sure the budget was built properly, that wasn't their intent. I think they were still negotiating with Norwalk, or they were working out Norwalk's deal right now. So,
Now, Ed, if I just want to clarify, if I may clarify.
sure.
So any carting company, we approve them to come in and bring material into our facility, okay? And in so doing, they have to comply with separating both recyclables from other trash.
Yes.
Okay, and so if they were to bring things in mixed, that would be not what we want.
They would be asked to leave.
There you go. Okay.
But just so you understand,
Yeah.
the people that come in now, they know that. So they come in, their routes are Monday MSW, Wednesday recycling.
Yeah, I
So
get it.
we have a good, so if someone comes in that we either don't know, or we're finding that they're mixing trash, the guys from Wind Waste that run the transfer station, they let us know. And I can tell you Darren's on top of that within hours, making sure that doesn't happen again, or addressing whatever garbage they threw in there they shouldn't have.
Yes. So those carting companies, you know, if they engage with both residents as well as businesses or apartment residences as well, is that, do I understand that correctly?
I think that's accurate.
So for like, for example, Avon,
Avalon?
I don't want to guess.
yeah.
I can't tell.
Because,
I can't tell you. if
questions
that's-
have come up about, you know, how do we deal with, you know, particularly the new developments that are coming along?
I have to say that they don't have garbage pails. So a lot of their garbage, the garbage haulers that come in are residential trucks that handle smaller residential places. These dumpsters that'll be getting picked up by these trucks, they won't be able to dump in our facility. They can't dump in our transfer station. They're too big.
So they're going to be going elsewhere, you think?
They will go back to city carting. Most of the companies that work at it have their own hauling place.
So you don't think we'll see much of anything from them then?
I don't think we'll see an increase from the larger ones now.
Okay, well, that's
And if they
interesting
do,
to know.
and this is the good part about this, the whole
Yeah.
process, right? We have some time right now.
Yeah.
If they do, well, we've taken care of the MSW piece, right? Within about a year and a half ago, we did that in October
Yeah, yeah.
2022.
Yeah,
We
right,
raised
you
it.
increased
Yep, so we went from
80 to 110, something like that?
94 to 118, but you were close. But we did, we made a large jump. We were behind. Okay, so now we've taken care of that. The proposal from Wind Waste is to go from 99 up about 3%, 4%. So we're still in a good position. The proposal from the Board of Selectmen and mine was to propose and implement a recycling tipping fee. Because you can no longer now bring it for free. It's going to cost the town money. I had originally proposed 75. I think the Board of Selectmen increased it to 75.
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Yeah, that's what.
And I'll tell you my rationale behind the 50, and the 75 makes perfect sense too. You're trying to cover costs. I'm trying to make the residents, or have the residents feel that recycling is still important and still worth your while to do it. And I think 75 still does that, but I took the number and I split it in half, basically.
Still lower than MSW though.
That's the
Materially
point.
lower.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
so it's
correct.
just a swag as to what's enough of it.
And you know, we're going to have to feel our way through the first year, but take our best guess now on what we know and what I can provide as far as information to the Board of Selectmen, to you folks and the Board of Finance, so that you can, you know, put your heads together.
Ed, do they have in this contract a fuel surcharge as well with it?
They don't line it, they don't break it down separately. Their overall cost is just a monthly number that we put out. And there's two ways to base the increase. You could base it on the CPI, which we've done for a lot of the process, whether it's brush or logs or grass or whatever, they increase based on the CPI every year. Or it could be a fixed fee. You could do a fixed fee 2%, which we did for one or two of the items last year. Was MSW was a perfect example. Every year, it just went up by 2%.
2%.
So we're trying to mix and match and stay within the original contract as we meet with them and do the proposal. So, I don't know.
So is it fair to say then that the carting companies are gonna, assuming we go ahead with $75 that we're gonna charge them, that they're in turn going to turn that over and build that back into their costs and their prices with whatever, the people here in town?
I would think so. I
That
mean,
have carting.
Any operating costs.
I think they're going to have to.
I'm kind of saying that out loud so that everybody kind of hears it now.
Right, but I would think, like any operating expense, fuel,
Yeah,
manpower, it all gets.
I think they're going to have to modify their model,
yeah.
their business model to see how that works out. And I don't know what impact our rate increase had in October of 2022. I heard some went up a little bit, some didn't change because it really didn't impact them as much based on their volume. But this will have an impact.
Okay.
I was trying to do math in my
I think
head.
that, I think the only,
Yeah, does anybody know how many tons of
That's what
recyclables
I
that they have
was
picked
trying
up
to
every
figure
year,
out.
you know?
How many people use a ton
I
per
mean,
household? I don't know, that seems like a high number,
Yeah.
but
Right.
someone can do the math.
well, we recycle about 45,
I was just gonna say, you know how much comes
4,500.
into the
Yeah, I
dumpster?
justified by the
4,500
number.
tons.
Right.
Or, I'm sorry, that's MSW. About 3,200 tons for,
Recyclables.
yeah. So
Divided by
Per year?
8,000
per year.
Oh, so-
households.
Households, plus the
So-
stuff from out of town.
So
Yeah,
roughly
we
a
do get
quarter
things from
ton
out of town. They're
per
quarter
household,
ton.
That
max.
32 is going out the gate.
Yep.
Wherever it comes from, it comes from.
Right, right.
That's going out the gate.
So maybe a quarter ton, half ton.
Let me ask one last thing on recycling.
I think I'm getting
The
off easy.
food,
Oh, the food waste, yeah, that's huge.
is that considered the same as any recyclable, or is that
Solids.
kind of a different animal?
I treat it separately.
Yeah,
As
but
it's-
why do we
Takes
pay
both
to
cans and throws it in
remove
the
it?
same
Is that what
truck.
you're saying? Is there a fee?
Well, yeah,
to-
well,
I'm
first,
actually
Why
talking
not separate
about
waste?
how the compost come at the front.
Compost.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, the food waste compost.
I'm sorry, am I screwing things up here?
No, it's a whole
no.
separate category,
Yeah,
from what I
just-
understand. We're taking that out of.
We had some good questions.
Go back to your
here.
sequence if you want.
No,
Yeah,
no,
that's
no,
fine.
this is
Yeah,
perfectly fine. It's part of the waste, it's part of
Yeah,
solid
right.
waste.
At the same time.
So, just let me hit the questions too. So the first question was, it goes to New Milford Farms. Whoever wanted to know where it all goes to, it heads north.
The food waste does?
Yes, it does.
New.
And
Yeah.
at the end of every year, I purchase about 20 or 40 yards of it, depending on the cost. And I put it up at the transfer station, a nice pile, and people come with their 5-gallon buckets or two, and they grab it, and they use it for their plants, they use it around their vegetables,
Yep.
but they get to see what the food waste is turning into, and what it could be used for, and what the benefits are. And I think that is going to help promote this project as you go forward. And we've been doing that since day one. And you know, if anybody knows this program, Carolyn Bain has been pushing this and doing a great job with it and getting it out. And the more people talk about it, it's coming. It's going to be coming as a mandated topic soon as the state's going to. Yep. Because we just don't have any more places to put the garbage. You think with our raising of our rates, the haulers would go someplace else, but there is no place else to go. You know, we have city carting closing down at noon time because they can't take any more onto their floor. And that's gonna happen more. We only have one burn place left. Wheelabarrier's the only one left.
One in Bridgeport?
Bridgeport.
With the food thing, I feel like every time we participate, every time we go, the garbage cans are almost always full.
Which is a good problem.
Yeah, but
But-
it's not a good problem. You're trying to get rid of, you're
Yeah.
not getting nasty food waste.
And we're looking to get bigger ones.
That's what I was gonna
Yeah,
say.
that would be great.
The problem is this guy started small and he grew so fast
Yeah.
that he's trying to keep up with the industry.
Okay.
There's not a whole lot of competition out there. If you want to start a business,
It's
how's a business for you?
Interesting.
It's going to keep going. City carting, as much as I ask them, still don't want to get involved
They
with it
don't want
just
to go
yet.
there?
They'll be there soon.
If I can ask a
They
question
have
about
to.
that composting, so you bring it to town, and I was aware of that, I've known that. But
Sure.
Is it publicized when that happens? I personally have not seen it. when
Oh,
that
the-
happens.
need to have that in the
compost
newsletter.
return,
That's what I'm
yeah.
thinking, the newsletter, or however.
Okay. I will talk to Carolyn about that.
That's
She
a great-
normally
that's a
handles
great-
Is that
the
springtime?
press releases or getting the information out, but anything
Yeah,
better
that's a great-
to
that's a great
get it out to the
program.
residents.
And I think that people would.
So do they come pick that up at like no cost, or is there any cost for them to pick, assuming they pick it up?
There's a cost. I pay for those bins that are there, which is why I want to buy my own, a little bit bigger. And they pay per bin dump, let's say. They pay $75 to dump a full bin. And with that said, I started in 19, it's 23. So over the 4 years, we're averaging about 3.5 tons a month. And what we're paying and what we're saving by it not going into the MSW, right now, we're about breaking even. I think last year, for last year of COVID, we kind of lost money by about $2,000 it cost us to run the program. But other than that, we've been, the analysis I have, we're at $35,000, $40,000 worth of cost and then revenue savings, cost avoidance, if you will. So we did get a grant at the very beginning, it was almost $9,000 to start the program. So that kind of took us over when we weren't generating a whole lot of tonnage, but now we're generating more. The more people that are involved, the more cost avoidance, the more savings.
That's tremendous. So breaking even on the dumping and the MSW avoidance, then you get those, I can't remember how many tons you said you get and use around town. You have to pay for that?
No, I don't use it around town.
Well, you make it available for the
Just for the residents, come and get
Is there a
it.
charge for that, or?
It's like $700 for 40 yards.
Tremendous, okay.
But you mean to the residents?
No.
No,
To bring it back
it's
from the farm.
free.
It's
free
free.
to the residents.
It's free to the
700
residents,
for-
The town
For several
purchases.
tons, you said?
Yeah.
Just imagine
for-
Martha Stewart has
40
to go
yards.
to Westport.
40 yards.
40 yards.
My
puts
husband
your
does
seal
and
on it.
gets dirt
One
from
large-
there.
for a
very large
500%
truck
margin.
of material.
Got it.
And I think a lot of people have seen that material and how it's turned into such a good usable product. And I think it's promoted the food waste composting.
Yep.
Yeah, so is that, you said it's like once a year, and when in the year was that, generally?
That's us.
Spring, summer, fall?
I think it's generally around April or May,
Okay,
just
so
around, what's the?
late spring?
Yeah.
It's
Or
in April.
Mid-spring,
There's a, well, it'll come back to me,
Yep.
sorry.
sorry.
It's on our recycling center, on this, you can just reach out to Carolyn.
Oh, okay.
Just whoever's on that, just reach out to Carolyn.
All right. I think I covered the question you had, right, Rolf?
Yes.
I think the other thing was it's subject to the $70 per ton haul out. It's not. It's not. It's a different vendor, a different pricing system. I'm still pushing him to try to at least charge me per weight. It'd be a whole lot easier for me to track. Right now, it's per bin, and we have to make sure the bins are full before they take them.
Which is why they're.
I'm getting
full.
charged for them.
That makes
So that's why we
sense.
want them overflowing.
That's why you want them full.
I want them right to the top. I want
Always
them
get more in them.
That's why you want them bigger, too.
bigger. I'm pretty sure he'll want to bump that number up just a smidge. So, all right. Any other questions on solid waste?
I just want to come back to the compactors.
Sure.
You said they've been out for several months.
They have. I didn't
Is
get-
is that a big issue? I mean, are we waiting for equipment? What was the?
Our vendor, in our discussions with their contract, has said they wanted to invest capital back into the facility. So my question to them was, why not sooner rather than later?
Yeah.
And their answer to me was, well, tell me I have a contract.
Yeah.
Then,
Makes sense.
then they asked that they invest that capital, which is the part where I didn't get to finish before, was that's going to be in the contract. That they have to invest capital in specific items of specific value. And we want to make sure that they upgrade our facility back to where it was when they first started and when we first came in here. So the compactors, and there's also a loader that's up there that has gone down. They've been renting one, but we want them to replenish that and replace that too. So that will be in the contract. They have asked for a 5-year contract, which, if the numbers work out, I don't have an issue with, as long as they want to put the provisions for the capital investment in.
Right.
It's a win-win-win.
It's a little
So
bit.
that's their equipment.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
It came with the building of the facility, and not knowing the exact background of how it was funded, they are responsible to maintain it. So in their contract, they will be responsible to fix it, repair it, or replace it. And they've been good with everything except the compactors, and to be honest with you, I think it's the bins themselves that need to be replaced. The compactor systems themselves are working okay, but the trailers themselves need to be replaced.
The trailers.
That's what
Yeah,
they
right,
get
the
compacted into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, they have dumpsters in there, and that's not acceptable. So,
Ed, I'm sorry, one other question, and they just keep coming to me. We have a number of residents in town that, bring their garbage to the dump, and they don't use a carrier,
Right.
okay?
mhm.
So we're gonna have an increased cost on the recyclables, and I'm sure those people bring recyclables. So I'm assuming, but I don't want to assume anything, that this could have an impact on the parking, the permit
Permit
fees
fees.
coming up at the, the renews at the end of June?
So it's always in the summer,
Yeah,
together with the beach stickers.
yes.
Yeah, it's on the fiscal year.
Exactly.
Now,
It's June 30th.
has there been any conversation that you're aware of about that with this development?
Not with me.
Okay.
Doesn't mean it hasn't been had.
Yeah, I
People haven't
understand.
talked about it.
I understand.
What we tried to do, and I think the Board of Selectmen tried to do, was absorb and balance some of those cost differentials and the increases by putting in a higher tipping fee. I suggested 50, 75 was a new number. Evaluating the rebate. So if you put those two numbers together, that's almost $200,000. If you look at the impact that the increase to 118 had when we bumped up the tipping fee for MSW, we increased our revenue just in MSW by over $200,000. And the increases to the RDA stickers, hauler or no hauler, increased by almost 25 grand. So you add those four numbers together, and you're around $400,000. If you look at, and you probably didn't get to see my spreadsheet, no one really does, but on my spreadsheet, working out all of the pluses and minuses of their contract proposal, we're around 380 of a differential increase. Right now, I'm comfortable that we're back where we should be, but you never know. The haulers find another place to go. They disappear. Now,
Yeah,
if that number
as
starts
fast
to
as
go
they
down,
come, they could-
we're just dealing with residents now, right?
Yeah.
So that 118 that we were charging, that 400 to 600,000 difference in 100,000 of revenue, that $200,000 will start to diminish. And when it does, the taxpayer will absorb the rest of that cost somehow.
Yeah.
And whether it's through taxes or through permits.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
So, hope that explains it.
Yes, it
It did. Thank you.
All right. Where would you like to go to next? I have sewer, I have parking, I have capital, I have sidewalks.
That's, I'm gonna go to capital.
Yeah, satisfy
Well,
Capital's
the
on.
sewer
certain
pays for
certain
itself, right?
constituents
'Cause
in
it's
the
like,
Sewer does,
committee.
it does. I
didn't know.
so who cares?
I do have one good, or not good sewer. I have a sewer story, if you will.
A sewer success
It's-
story?
It's not.
We love sewer stories.
But it's.
Every
it-
day.
It impacts the fees, and for those folks that pay a fee, they always want to hear why it goes up, or what rationale is behind it, what am I getting for my dollars? We pay based on the charges from the city of Stamford, based on the percentage of flow that we send over. We are running around 14, 15%. It's been dropping slowly down. Hopefully the work that we're doing out here now will improve that. The city of Stamford had a major force main in their treatment plant develop a longitudinal crack along pretty much the entire pipe. They caught it, I believe, just in time because I hadn't heard any blowouts, but they did catch it.
Sorry, where located?
What's that?
Where located?
in the treatment facility on McGee Avenue, which is where we're responsible to pay. If they were anyplace else, I would, I'd feel bad about it, but we wouldn't have to pay for it. So the big piece that goes along with that is they had to develop emergency plans, come up with emergency funding, and implement it and get it done. So they've done all of that. The trick to it, though, is the $3.2 million it cost to fix it did not come from bonded funds. It came from their reserve. And taking up
Their sewer fund reserve?
their sewer fund reserve,
Yeah.
$3.2 million.
Yeah, that's a
We
hit.
own 15% of that. $450,000 later, the invoice I get this year jacked itself up. So I'm behind in my payments, if you will. We pay in the arrears, if you will. And then in October, we check and we see, are we paid too much? Do we pay too little? And I adjust my payments. Well, the invoice says I have to pay a whole lot more. This may cause the rates to increase. Now, I tried already to make up the difference. I bumped up my payments already. This is an enterprise fund. I have a reserve also. So I've increased my payments now until July 1st. And probably bump that up a little bit more into the new fiscal year until October, and I see what the invoice says. And see if I've made up any of the difference, and I should. So that's my plan. And at that time, August, September, I'm looking at the rates. So everything seems to come August, September, October. I'm gonna have to evaluate the impact before having an invoice in my hand. So there goes the. Now, I did have a meeting with the Stanford WPCA. We usually review their invoice with them. I ask them about line items, money they spend, capital investments, capital improvements, anything on the horizon. And we had a long discussion about using their capital, they're using their reserve funds and letting us know when they do. I can't stop them from using it. Their reserves, they have a $24 million reserve on a $17 million budget. So they have a hefty reserve to handle things like this. And they should use it for things like this, but I would have preferred to know about it.
Now,
That would
If I
have
can ask
helped.
a question about that.
Sure.
I understand how it impacts us if we dip into the reserve. The alternative is to bond it.
That would have spread those costs over
Okay, so
30
it's
years.
just spreading, it doesn't change the.
Yeah,
participation.
now I have to come
Yeah,
up
it's still
with
money.
the 450,000 now instead of the, I don't know, divide 450 by 30 years and then throw an interest
20
rate
years
on
or
there.
something with an
Yep.
interest
Right.
rate, yeah.
So,
But this is
So-
a one-time cost. I mean, presumably
until it
they don't
happens
go
Until
down
the next one.
Until it
Yeah.
happens again.
it's an isolated situation and an emergency. Yeah, it doesn't mean it couldn't happen someplace else again.
Oh, there
That
could be an emergency. right,
Sure.
right,
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
There will be.
So that 450, that's not in our rates that we're paying today.
No.
That'll come up when
Not
we
yet.
reset the rates, what, in the end of summer?
It may, or the sewer commission may want to split the difference, some of it from the rates, some of it from our reserve. I'd like to build our reserve back up again. I'm a rainy day
Rainy
kind of
day
guy.
guy.
But I have some folks on there that like to keep it balanced. And
So
that's-
how much of a reduction in reserve was this?
From ours?
Yeah.
I won't know until July 1st.
Oh, okay, that's what you're.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the day of
I-
reckoning.
Right.
yeah. My bump up was maybe 20, 30,000, I think it was 25,000 over the next 6 months.
Okay, so kind of recalibrate from there.
I'm trying to absorb some of it, maybe a third of it before we get to the new fiscal year.
Got it. Thanks, sir.
All right, that's sewer. Parking's enterprise fund too. Any interest in hearing about that? Looks like-
On parking, revenues are up.
Yes. Yeah, and I know Kate could speak to a little bit better, but I know the permits are pretty steady. Our ticketing has increased because of the 2 new parking rangers. I have to find out why one of them's up early.
No, now
Going up extra.
I am like really feeling terrible about this.
Now I just have to find out
He
what
goes
road, I
above
need to
and
know
beyond
what
his
road you're
duty. He
on.
shows up 15
You'll
minutes
have-
I'm not
early.
gonna tell you.
Must have some Germanic DNA.
Yeah, I don't have the number, it was up, but it was up.
Yeah.
Biting my tongue.
It was up. So, I could pull the.
I am- you-
Okay.
Yeah, we're not getting
responsible
to
that we
the
have.
line items.
All right,
Um,
so,
Yeah, I just don't remember anything noteworthy in parking.
Tipping fees, transfer station.
Does that mean that more people are riding the train?
Yeah.
Is that the
It's definitely up.
It's definitely
out of
up.
it?
Yeah, the lots are getting, Monday, 70%, 80%, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're busy, they're packed.
That's good.
And then Friday
Great.
is a major drop-off, I
Yeah.
think.
Nobody works in.
That's,
Yep.
Tell that to me.
okay, so we can talk capital, if you'd like. I have I think, a couple of things you had mentioned, Mark. ARPA,
Yeah, and I realize on that, there's been some back and forth since I sent you that email regarding high level, trying to put onto the ARPA list things that with certainty can be contracted and completed within the two mandated timeframes, as opposed, and pulling some items off that may be pressed, but I think that's still in flux as far as the finalized list.
from
Because
checking,
I don't have it.
checking today, I think they're trying to set up a meeting of the ARPA committee again to kind of massage where some of that money goes and where maybe they don't think they're going to hit their deadlines and spend them.
Do we think the front loader's on the list?
That's the item that caught my eye. There were two items that were Public Works on a preliminary
Okay.
adjustment.
The only one I knew of was the loader.
The loader.
And from what Kate had said, she's going to put that forward as a request, whether they approve it or not. I think it sounds like it will be, but
And that's a
nothing's
replacement of your
guaranteed.
existing loader?
I'm sorry?
Is that a replacement of
Yeah,
the
it's a
existing
replacement.
loader?
Correct. That was supposed to happen next year, in next year's budget, and I think Kate took that out and thought ARPA money being spent on that would be a better spend, and I will hit my deadline spending it. That's definitely not a problem.
Yeah, I'm just looking what I thought, there was an item that I think was something in the building here, which I construed as maybe being Public Works, if you give me one moment.
Sure.
Might have been a safe or a cage or something in the clerk's office. Then as I thought about it, that might have been just clerk specific and not building specific.
You're looking at maybe security cameras and access?
Yeah, I thought it was referred to as a cage or safe.
Oh, okay.
But that could be not building related, but more department related. So those are the only two items. Did you touch the big one, the loader?
Okay. Sorry, just taking the notes here. All right, so onto the DPW capital. The loader was in, that's being removed. Mark, you asked about new sidewalks that were in this year's budget?
Yeah, I heard during the Board of Selectmen, the
Yep.
budget, the new sidewalks were
Did-
budgeted, and if I recall, increase. And then I think they actually recited one or two that were targeted.
Yeah, so I have the three locations. These are all, if I call them fill-ins or missing sidewalks, if you will.
Yeah, connections.
Yeah, there's one on Old Kings Highway South, opposite Corbin. It's about 200 linear feet of concrete sidewalk that's missing in that one section to connect underneath I-95 to continue to Tokenique Road. I'm waiting patiently for the Corbin project to kind of move out of that way, but I think they're pretty much done there, so put it forth this year. Sedgwick from Mansfield towards the Post Road. There's a section from the State Road all the way down to the office building there's been a request in for that, so I put it in. We did some original test holes out there to see what I was going to find in that little hill. We found a little bit of ledge, but not a whole lot. We'll do a little bit more digging, but that's another piece that I'd like to put in.
So you can do that on the side that abuts the gas station or the opposite
The other
side?
side.
Okay.
The office building.
Oh, that would be great.
Yeah.
I would love
And
that.
that will connect Mansfield to
To the Post Road.
the Post Road.
Yeah.
Correct. We did the other section in front of the office building
I
and the
saw it.
parking lot and stopped.
Yeah.
And we were approached by some of the neighbors that back up
Yep.
to Sedgwick and asked if we would consider putting that through there. I think that, and to be honest with you, I think that makes sense. I think I've seen people walking on the road that they really shouldn't be there. Hopefully it'll give them someplace safe to walk. And the last piece is on Tokenique. On my schedule for this year, into next year too, is doing from on Tokenique Road, from Tokenique Elementary School, all the way to I-95 on the I'm gonna say the south side.
Yeah.
And there's a section in there that doesn't have sidewalk, from house number 119 to the off-ramp. I put that in there for this year. Now, I was, I first started here about 8 years ago, I was asked to keep the newer sidewalks that don't exist separate from the rehab, and I've done that. Or I would have generally just put that whole sidewalk all in one budget number, but this is the request to fill that in. I have the other money already to do from Old Farm to 119, so I can do both pieces once this is approved. The trick will be getting the permit out of the state.
So sorry, is
Touch-
there, between Old Farm on Tokenique
Mhm.
and the off-ramp, is there sidewalk along part of that?
Yes.
Okay.
About 2/3 of it. It's
Really?
asphalt. It's kind of like the other side was before we put the concrete in.
Got it.
Kind of overgrown, little path to
So we're
walk
gonna
on.
clean that up,
Want
put
to
it
clean it
back in
up,
condition.
replace it, and like we did the other side, make it complete and finished.
Okay.
I think that would be good.
And that'll terminate at Old Farm, then it will not continue.
It won't continue down
Right.
towards Norwalk.
Right, so then if you wanted to continue on a sidewalk, you'd have to use the crosswalk at Tokenique School in order to get across.
on the side and go
continue
down.
on down to Row 8.
Correct.
Crossover.
Yeah.
And if I heard correctly during the budget session, that's a year-on-year increase on that line item. I don't have the budget open. Does anyone have the budget open, or we can check it out?
I do, it doesn't seem to be.
No,
No,
flat?
not,
Flat, okay.
this is the new sidewalks are flat.
The new
Request,
ones are flat.
single year request. The sidewalk rehab had the year-to-year increases.
That's what
This
it
year,
is.
she took out the 500,000 this year. I have about $1 million right now in the account. So in speaking with her, I probably won't be able to spend that
Sorry, her is Kate.
this year and next year. What's that?
Sorry, speaking with her is Kate?
Kate, I'm sorry,
Okay.
yes. I've spoken to Kate about it and asked if I could defer that a year. And I told her I would have no problem with it. I do have, I still have a lot of work to do and I have money to be able to do it. So why overtax the budget if I don't have to? So we're at sidewalks.
So I think there was a sense of this group that met before Election Day, so we go back a few months,
Mhm.
that we benchmarked our progress against the old PIAC report, and while we were appreciative for the good work that has been done, I think there was a lot of work that has still not yet been tackled. I think the sense of the group, and I don't want to speak for the whole group, was that a lot of the low-hanging fruit's been done, and a lot of the logistically simpler things have been done, which is great, right? So no criticism of that, but at the same time, there are some high-need areas that have not been tackled because they're harder, right? And the poster child for this, of course, is the upper half of Hoyt Street, right? There are other locations, on Old Kings Highway South, on various places along Post Road, although a lot of those have been addressed. Again, I'm not going to rehash the whole thing, but I would want to ask if those higher profile, high challenge areas are not addressed in this year's action, I'd like to at least see a plan to address them for next year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know that, for example, the upper end of Hoyt Street, there have been plans done. There have been, assessments done. There has been work with the state. There's been a variety of things, right? So I think we just need to figure out what the best plan is and then figure out how to move it forward and identify what the challenges are, rather than continuing to identify challenges. Okay, we know there's challenges. We need to kind of pick something and actually move it ahead.
And
Same's true.
if I can add to that for your benefit, Ed, that resolution that Frank is referring to that was put forth back in the fall has been shared with the Board of Selectmen and with the first selectman, and he's offered to come and join us in the future. He actually offered to come today, and we opted for you. But that's it. You already scheduled, but he plans to come and address their thinking or his thinking around pedestrian access. And
So again, the good work you're doing is still good work. Filling in gaps is still worth doing, like not taking away from any of that work, but we know there's like higher level of difficulty areas, and we if we're gonna make progress on those, we need to put some brain power and resource. Does that mean we need to hire engineers, hire lawyers, like figure out like how we're gonna actually make progress here. I think we need to figure out how we're gonna tackle these, because it's just not acceptable to kind of
Recognizing that
keep
that
kicking the
direction
can.
comes from.
Yeah, if I might just,
The Board of
I mean,
Selectmen.
there needs to be some set of priority and how those priorities are set. And it's, I don't know how, I mean, as we chatted in this sort of subcommittee, we don't know how the decision, and we don't need to know how all the sausage is made, but in terms of, how decisions are made on what areas to move, particularly new sidewalks that, in areas that have just been sitting there and probably could use. So how is the priority set? And I don't know if that's set by you, or is it set by the Board of Selectmen, or combination, or, so, I mean, those are all things we were sort of struggling with on how to understand it.
Right.
And so we've reached out. This was put forth to the Board of Selectmen, and John has offered to come and share his thinking around this.
I had an opportunity to speak to Monica too before she left office. She said she spoke to you folks also. I expressed some of my concerns with some of the PIAC report. I had a revised conversation with Don Anderson too, because I know he was involved also, about why we felt the way we did about certain things, because it had been a while on certain topics, if you will. I think the sidewalk on Hoyt Street, I know you, Frank, you bring it up every time, and I understand completely.
It's just, look, we have adults
the
and
one.
children walking in the street in the slush in the dark.
And
I mean, it's just not safe.
And there was already been one administration that decided that it wasn't a priority. And it's going to be a new sidewalk, which means you're going to have to come up with the funds to do it. The estimate last time to do it was over $600,000. For a sidewalk, to be quite honest with you, that doesn't go anywhere yet, because New Canaan hasn't bought into, hey, I'll do the rest for you. And it's not like I haven't asked. So
I agree with Ed on that. I mean, we gotta have a partner with New Canaan on it. It can't just be, a sidewalk that
Sidewalk to nowhere.
just goes to a certain point and then stops.
And I've looked at the plans, and I've looked at, maybe there's a different way to do it. But the DOT has vetted it. We've met, I've been on the call with the DOT and the residents involved, or one of the residents involved up there, and heard their comments. They pretty much sent us back to the well to find money to do it on our own. I mean, that's the feeling I'm getting is, yeah, there are some people that feel strongly about getting it done, but can they get the Board of Selectmen to tell me to make it a priority? That's when I'll have to do it, and that's the only thing I can do.
Well, right,
I appreciate that, and so let's,
Yeah.
we've
Right,
escalated
I
this.
guess, so that's fair, and I recognize that you have to work with the direction you get from the Board of Selectmen.
I do.
That's only legitimate, right? And I guess I'm taking this opportunity, and I think we've taken this opportunity as a group, to say, we want this to be made a priority, right? And we're expressing it to you, we'll express it to John and Mark. I know you've conveyed that message to them. So we just need to continue to raise the priority of this. So don't be surprised when you hear about it again from us.
No, not at all.
You'll be surprised.
There's an easy way to kind of not hear about it from us again, just to put a sidewalk in, right?
It would be in already.
And it's good it's only
Well, but
Darien
just to be clear, it's
You
not
can't
just
actually
It's not
stone
about-
cars.
It's
No, there's many spots.
Right.
Yeah.
There's Mansfield, there's lots of other areas.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that covered the town.
I don't want to be
in many
obsessively focused on that one
respects,
spot.
not just that one
But there's
location.
at least a half a dozen or probably more high priority places where, again, people are walking in the streets and people are walking in the dark, and it's not safe.
Yeah.
So
The question over there. What you got?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, from a budget standpoint, there is not in the 6-year capital plan any plan for new sidewalks.
Correct.
So, because we got 165 for this year, we've done new sidewalk before, and yet for sidewalk rehabilitation, we've got in the 6-year capital plan 1.5 million.
Yeah, that's my
So
major question.
Why is
Yeah.
there no new sidewalks, but, 1.5 million of capital is not insignificant when it comes to sidewalks.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
what's the thinking in terms of the balance?
So the 1.5 million in sidewalks is the sidewalk rehab?
Yeah.
Those are existing sidewalks. And we went around town and evaluated what needed to be replaced and refigured. And a lot of them are longer roadways that haven't been touched in a while. Mansfield Avenue is a perfect example. Tokenique was a perfect example. There's sidewalks over on the Boston Post Road by the YMCA. that I haven't even put on the list yet to get to. Near water, there's another one. They're just long sections that need to be addressed. That's why the number is what it is, almost 2.3 million. Is it almost $3 million? When Jamie asked me to put that list together, I went out and evaluated everything and tried to put a number to it, to rehab these and stretch it over maybe a 6-year program, 5 or 6 year program, and that's what I've done to the best of my ability. Now, we got slowed down by a pandemic, right? We didn't do a whole lot of work during that time. We have issues. A lot of this work is on state roads. The permitting process is, it is what it is. It's not efficient or cooperative.
And some of them are difficult, near water lanes, all the trees.
I run into tree issues a lot. But I do try to pick sections that I get out to the neighbors ahead of time, especially on town roads, where I can, tell me what you think, because I'm going to post this tree over here. And I've had neighbors come out and work with me on, the width of the sidewalk, the location. Okay, I understand the tree has to go, I'm not going to fight it. Because as soon as I post it and they protest it, now I'm delayed. If they go to the state, I'm delayed 9 months after that.
Oh, man.
So those things can happen.
So
But
I guess
think
the
there's
question though
Yeah, I think there's an
is,
appreciation that a lot of deliberate effort
Mhm.
and research
Yeah.
and diligence has gone into this and goes into it every year. I think the folks should take an opportunity here to be heard.
I have no problem. You folks have always been
priorities.
They've always been cordial. I have no problem with that. And Frank and I have had multiple conversations. And I'm waiting for the invite out to go look at it, because we should go together.
I love it. And look, you have no
good
no
idea.
bigger fans than the folks on this committee.
I know that.
So-
I know that. And that's why coming here and speaking to you, whether it's a project that's easy to talk about or hard to talk about, I don't have a problem doing it. So that's why that number is what it is. The newer sidewalks, as they come up, I have no problem sticking it in the second or third year, whether it's in that 6-year program or not. So if next year they come, the Board of Selectmen goes, we really want to do that sidewalk on Hoyt Street. We want you to get an estimate. We want you to look at the design plans. I want you to put it in your budget for 2 years out. I will drop it in there, and I'll explain to Kate why it's there. And she's always been very accommodating, or she said, okay, where can you take something off? Can you take it out of your rehab sidewalk? We make that part of the new. So we try to balance the capital expenses that way.
Thanks. Paving.
yeah, it was just kind of on that, like, why is there so much money
Yeah.
rehabbing sidewalks when we don't have sidewalks in other areas? Like, why not just shift it over here? But
I think I addressed it.
I mean, kind of. I still don't quite get it, but I don't get how all of it works, so that's fine.
Okay.
We have about 25 miles of sidewalks out there.
Yeah.
Did you say
And,
you do 6 miles a year, something like that?
Oh, no.
That's correct?
That's
no, that's
the
paving.
roads.
Oh, it's paved,
That's
right.
paving.
Yeah. So a lot of them,
Yeah.
going through the inspections that we did, found that a lot of them need to be repaired or replaced. And that's what we're trying to do. That's why that budget is stretched out as long as it is.
And they do, yeah.
Thanks for that, Ed.
Thank
So we did sewers, we did sidewalks, we did capital, we did operating. Are we missing any? Not that I'm aware of.
Any other questions? I mean, I'm here.
No, we got to our.
I'd like to ask one question. I'm sorry.
One more.
Yeah, one more. I'm sorry. I read your quarterly reports, and I couldn't help but notice that there was reference in both reports about a federal mandate program to test water. I'm very curious what this is, particularly since it's federally mandated,
Mhm.
and what the timeline is, because from what I've been able to gather so far on my own, there is a deadline on that comes
Yep.
through sometime, I think, in this mid-2025, if my memory serves me. So could you just give a little,
Sure. The unfunded mandate
yes,
that you're speaking of is the MS4 program. And it requires to do a lot of different things for water quality. Sweep the streets, clean the catch basins every year, sweep the streets 3 times a year. So we have a program that does it, and you have to track that. Other ones are tracking down illicit connections, reducing impervious surfaces, or trying to address direct connects to the streams by doing underground detention. Those are all part of the MS4. The other part, there's a part of it that we do water testing. All right. Now, what I've been able to do is piggyback with Harbor Watch out of New Haven, and they do some of our water quality testing for us and provide it. The other ones we've been doing on site at our transfer station too. So that's another one of the testing that is required as part of MS4 for our transfer station. The dry weather testing we've been able to do is the wet weather ones we haven't been able to keep up with. There isn't a deadline in 2025. It actually was 2023. They just renewed the whole program, I think, for 4 more years. But don't quote me on that.
Now, this is, again, from my limited
Yep.
reading, this is like phase 2 of this whole program. I mean, this thing started back quite some time ago.
Yeah, 2012, 2014, it's been going on for 10 years. Back 5 years ago, they adjusted everything,
Yeah.
all the testing requirements and GIS mapping of all your outfalls so they know where they come from, what feeds them. We're in the process of doing that too.
But that water testing has to do with water quality, the quality of the water that we have flowing through the town,
Yep.
through the drainage that eventually goes out to Long Island Sound.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
And then, I can't help but connect the fact that we're also engaging in doing soil testing for an area that we're going to be dredging in the bay. Because that soil, if it doesn't pass certain standards,
It's gonna
when
cost
we
much more.
dredge it out,
Cost more to dispose.
it's
cost
not
a
going to be
lot.
able to be taken out on a barge to the middle of Long Island Sound and dumped. It's going to have to be put on the lot, on land, and then picked up by truck and trucked away.
That's not
Okay?
related to MS4 though, right?
Well, I'm connecting
it to-
water quality and then soil sampling in the bay, and gee, do you think there's any connection there? I don't know.
They stopped using sand as a snow treatment on I-95 and the Post Road, 2001, 2002, somewhere in that area. And they were about 10, 15 years too late. All right, a lot of those impoundments at the ends of the harbors or end of the rivers right now have all that runoff from those roadways. Holly Pond's a perfect example.
20 years later?
They're still there. They're still there. And you'll know when you go to do the testing, because they'll drill down and they'll pull up the samples, and you'll know where the layers start for the composted areas, the sand, when they get down to the gravel, you'll know that.
What I think about most is, you have both Good Wives and Stony Brook, and they both flow into Gorham's.
Mhm.
And so I paddled into Gorham's once, and that was an experience.
I just dredged this out here. You folks remember when I did
Yeah,
that?
yeah.
That compost was not hazardous, but it was contaminated. Had runoff from a roadway. Imagine what drips on the road. Oils, gases, greases. That's why it had to be trucked away. But it wasn't hazardous where it had to be burned. It could be taken to a landfill. My thought is that's probably what you're going to find in the harbor.
Something like it. yeah.
Somebody can build a new golf course.
Thank you.
Moving on. Thank you, Ed.
Is that it? We're good?
I think that's,
Just one. Sorry. There's in the capital plan, there's a $240,000 transfer station compactor replacement.
Mhm.
Is that a part of your negotiation with our
Yeah,
vendor? And then that would pull that out of.
that would come out.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we're talking about the same compactors. Okay.
When do you think you'll hear back from them? I think you said earlier
that's
that
a
you
negotiation
submitted to them 2-3 weeks ago?
Mhm.
Okay, so you're still
It's a
waiting.
standoff.
it's in negotiation.
Mhm.
Waiting.
Let you negotiate.
I mean, is there any other option?
It's-
Can't say.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other questions?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Ed.
folks.
This might be off kilter or something,
Oh, one more.
but education on their rubbish or town facilities. Do we use the same company that we use to manage the dump?
I'm sorry, you lost me.
So city carting or waste management?
Yeah.
They manage the dump. Are also our town contractor to pick up all the trash in the towns?
I know, different facilities are using different one. I think the police use Patriot out of New Haven or Bridgeport, and I think Wind Waste does our schools, and they pick up the back here. So the contracts aren't the same.
Trying to find a way to get like a package deal and try to work a
Exactly.
better
Yeah.
deal
That's interesting.
with them.
You move it
So
all
we-
to one
Right.
provider.
I mentioned before how there's been less facilities that you can bring your garbage to. So when City Karting on Taylor Reed or Wind Waste on Taylor Reed and Stanford closes down early, we have the ability to take their customers for garbage at the rate that we charge them. So they will send them over. We have the volume capacity to take that use and we're basically moving it here to move it back over there later, which is a benefit to us. We're making money off of it. So that's been the only trade. We're like the closest neighbor, and we seem to get along well. So I think that's maybe help us with the negotiation.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Great.
No more last
All right,
words.
Ed.
Thanks so much, thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Take care.
All right.
Leases. Leases, are there not?
Yes, we have some leases to review. Thank you for that. Let's see, I think, was there anything else before the leases?
Great Island Pet Addendum.
Yes, let's go over
I
the,
could not open
For
one of the
tenants.
right,
lease
okay, so,
documents. Did
high level,
anyone
what we
else
have
a
here is,
permission?
there's 3 lease items that we've been assigned by rules. One is for one of the properties that, if you all remember last year, or last session, we looked at and reviewed and approved new leases for the existing tenants.
Yep.
Yes.
One of the leases was not up for renewal at that time.
Oh, right.
That's
Yep.
right.
So one of these 3 is that one, is being renewed on the same terms. If you recall, those leases were renewed on the same terms. The other is a renewal. One of the ones we renewed previously, it's up for renewal, and it's being extended for another year, same terms. There's no change in the terms. And then the third item before us is a pet addendum. I don't recall how many of the tenants have pets, but these are existing pets, from what I understand. And it clarifies where they can and can't have their pets. It looks like they need to be on premises. I've got the copy. I circulated the copy. Let me grab it before I misquote it. Does someone have it?
I have it.
It's short if you want to.
Restrictions on the pets allowing consisting of, I don't know, the number of pets on premises, only,
Pounds per pet?
No, that's the identification of the pets section.
oh,
Did it say that they have to be on a leash all the time?
I think.
Yep, here we go. I got it.
tenant
That's
obligation,
town.
It had to do with the Roman.
The pet addendum.
not leave
Section 2 of the pet
unattended.
addendum is that tenants authorized pets on premises shall be restricted to, and it identifies specific pets. And then section 1 talks about their pets being allowed on premises. And I don't recall it saying on leash.
Yeah,
Up to
tenants
date
shall
on
not leave any pet
vaccines.
unattended outside of
Outside,
their
yeah, it's the roaming
respective
around, because now
premises.
it's public.
Right.
They used to clean and remove waste.
But is any part of that considered their personal yard where they can?
Yeah,
Yeah, they just
Pet?
can't be unattended.
I think so.
Well, it says tenant obligation. The tenant must have their pets under control and on leash at all times when outdoors.
Yes.
Wait, where's that?
Section
Yeah,
6,
that's-
tenant obligation.
There it was.
Yeah.
I just read it. Thank you.
They also take out insurance.
And it's underlined in section 6.
And italicized.
Oh, must.
This is
Italicized.
really serious.
This is
Well, a lot of
not
that is
messing
also
around.
covered with dog license, the dog license.
Well, they have to apply by all
Yeah.
rules, town ordinances and rules.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 before us.
my only question is, what's the premise? What are the premises?
I think they're
Is
on
it Great Island? Is that the premise?
No, that's-
No,
Or
it's
is it-
it's, the
Their
lease is
property.
quite clearly
The
not.
lease defines the premise.
Does it? Okay.
Yeah.
The lease defines the premises. So a couple of tidbits picked up along the way. Let's see, the first lease is for 18 Great Island, needs the RTM approval. It was pre-existing at the time of the purchase, thus never
Leash.
approved by the RTM, but it's the same terms as existing lease. Regarding the other, let's see, regarding the other being the term of the lease, lastly, there's the rider for the pet addendum. So yeah, we touched on all 3 of those. Frank, any question?
Yeah, so I noted that the renewed lease for 18 Great Island is a 16-month lease. So it goes from, I think, April of this
April to
year
July.
through the end of July of '25, which I guess raises the question from a strategic point of view, and you're the perfect person to ask because you're the Grid Island liaison. Is there a long-term, what is the committee thinking about the long-term strategy of maintaining high-end rental housing on this property? Is that something that we aspire to continue to do, or that we aspire to exit that responsibility?
Sure, I don't believe that there's any intention to aspire to a long-term owner or renter of property. That said, the short-term and immediate term plans have not been deciphered for the property. So in the interim, the status quo is being maintained, absent when a tenant seems to exit. So far, I've not seen any renewals for any tenants that have terminated, whichever tenant.
So if a tenant left, we would not fill that space?
I won't use the word will. I don't know what the Board of Selectmen's thinking. I've observed none have been offered for renewal. So the thinking here, I believe, is that there's an RFQ process that's going on to be followed by an RFP process related to possibly engaging a consultant to help the Board of Selectmen of the town strategize on a long-term plan and use and governance. That process is not going to take less than a year, 18 months.
We're going to be at this for a while.
Yes, so with that in mind, I think the current tenants are being offered at least one renewal.
So refresh my memory, the ones that we approved last year, when did they all end? Because they all had the same period, right?
Yeah, they all had the same end date. I think that was...
They had all the same end date, and I had the same question like you, why is that July? Is that in line with the end date of all the others? Or
Correct.
is this different?
No, that's the reason why.
So that's the reason why?
That's
Okay,
that's
that's
my
what I
understanding.
thought, but I didn't read the old ones.
Yep.
So they all come to an end.
So they
the same
all come
date.
to an end of
Okay,
July.
And so
Yeah, so
if there is a decision
one way or the
not
other.
to renew,
Yeah,
then
exactly.
Yeah, but all the leases also have a 90-day mutual
They all still
Yeah,
have
yeah, yeah.
opportunity
Yeah.
to terminate either
Yes,
way.
yes.
Right.
So again, I want to be completely respectful to the people who are living in those houses, and they need stability and certainty in where they're going to be able to live. At the same time, as a town, we have the ability to, I mean, it's in the lease, right? We have the ability to terminate those leases on 90 days' notice.
Right,
So
but the more
whenever we
respectful
just-
thing to do is to just have them all end at the same.
Have them all end at the same
Right.
time. I mean,
Understood.
you know,
Understood.
Making an
Understood.
exception,
There's no contemplated
one needs to have a
interruption.
rationale for that.
Exactly.
Right.
So and I just will remind everybody that, bless you, under Section 48 of our charter, the RTM has the authority to approve sales, leases, acquisitions, et cetera, or reject, or not approve, but not to modify or adjust. We've heard that many times.
No, I'm not trying to renegotiate the
No,
terms of the lease.
I know that, I'm just citing what many of us already know or have heard many times. I believe F&B.
But Mark, let me take one more bite of this apple. Sorry.
F&B has met on these three items and approved all three. I don't think P&Z, who is the primary on this, has met yet. I have been keeping in touch with Amy Zavatakis as she's asking questions. That's pretty much it. Frank, you had something?
So sorry, I just wanted to come back to, I don't think I got clarity, or maybe I didn't understand. If there were to be a vacancy among the houses, among the rental properties, has there been any discussion about whether they would try to refill that space with a new tenant? What I'm understanding from your comments before is that no tenants have terminated since we...
I don't know that none have terminated. I'm not aware of any.
Okay.
That any have terminated. None have come up for renewal or there's not been any discussions at the GIAC that I'm aware, that I recall, as far as putting them back out for rental. If I recall, when we toured, there were some empty units in the stable already. I can't recall how many, but I'm pretty certain there was at least one or more that weren't being put out for renewal. I'm not aware of anything being put out for renewal, or new.
For new lease.
That is vacated. And there's been no discussion about doing that. I think that's your
Okay.
question.
I think, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
So, are there any other questions regarding to the 3 leases?
Wait, 2 leases and a pet
2 leases
addendum?
and an addendum on it. Yes, you keep me honest over there. Is that, would you like to make a motion?
I moved.
Do we need to do these one by one?
Let's do them one by one.
I think you have to.
I think we do. I think we do.
What are they called?
So what was the first?
And I'll say that
Let's do
because
the pet
the
addendum.
vote, the vote on, at F&B, from what I understand, it was, they approved all 3, but on one of the 3 items, there was an abstention on the
Okay.
pet lease. I think it had to do with that person didn't think it belonged in F&B. But, so, yes, they voted on them separately. I think we should vote on them separately. So with that, I'll take a motion for, let me get them in front of me.
I moved to approve the pet addendum.
You want to do the pet addendum?
It's first on the agenda.
First on the agenda because it affects all
I
of them
feel bad for
potentially.
those dogs.
I'll take a motion for the pet addendum, Great Island update to the pet addendum page. Second?
One second.
Okay. All in favor? Unanimous? I'll take a motion for the lease for 18 Great Island Road page. Pat? All in favor? Unanimous? I'll take a motion for the residential lease extension page.
Who's the second? Rich.
Rich.
Thank you, Rich.
All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? Thank you.
That was easy. Done.
I wasn't sure we were going to be assigned that one, but I like that we were, and that it is town property, and leases do come up from time to time, not just of residences, but I remember the cell tower is the one that always comes to mind.
All right, if I may just bring up one thing that relates to Great Island. Is everybody aware of what the status is with the stables?
Yes, that it's
No.
not being renewed.
It's,
Right?
Can you
It's
Yeah,
fill us in?
apparently
We're
the town
losing
was
a lot
in
of money,
negotiation
yeah.
for continuing the lease.
Right. And they
The
couldn't-
stable operator wanted to have apparently a
More.
longer-term lease.
Right.
They could not come to terms, so my understanding is by March 1st,
They're
That's
walking.
my understanding.
that
They're
the stable,
Right.
people presently in the stable will no longer be there. Now, what that means to the stable, I have no idea.
Did they get their permit from the town?
They did.
They did.
But then they
Yes.
couldn't agree on the terms of the
Yeah.
lease.
Yeah, this is the,
renewal.
this is the lease discussion.
That's just a lease.
Well, I mean, I'm guessing the town wanted that lease to end the same time as the rest of these, and they must not have, so
Now, I don't know if there was any correlation between the term of that lease.
maybe.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Versus the residences.
But we do know that they wanted a longer lease. We do know that.
Yeah, that was apparently
That
the
was-
sticking point, was
yeah.
they wanted a much longer term. The town was not
Right.
willing to go that far in extending a lease that long, and so that was where it broke down.
Good. Good.
Well,
Can I ask, does that-
Good,
well,
but
you might
it's
look at
gonna
it
cost
good,
a
but that's,
lot of
that's,
money.
I think,
That's
a lot of
$200,000
revenue,
worth
yeah.
of,
In the Board of Selectmen budget discussions, it was
Yeah.
talked about that being
Yeah.
a 200,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so there's already talk about meeting that shortfall from the general fund.
Right. Does that mean that, and not to be simplistic about it, if the lease for the stable is gone, does that mean that there are no longer horses being boarded on the island? Just as a point of fact.
I don't know. I can't answer that
I would
question.
assume, but I don't know.
I would assume, but you're asking a direct question, I don't know. But one would assume that, yes. Getting late, but we should maybe take a run through the focus areas. If there's anyone that wants, that has
I
an
can
update
update
on
on
any one of the
the,
areas.
what's it called, sustainability.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thank you for sending that over, Rolf.
Okay.
The December meeting.
Yeah.
There's the 2 people stepping down, and then they were supposed to have a January 10th meeting, which I don't see ever happened, so I think.
I didn't see it.
I looked for it, and no meeting took place in January, according to the internet.
Who's
Yeah.
the chair? Is it-
They did not pick
They
a
don't
new
have a
one.
new chair.
They don't have a new chair
No.
after the chair stepped down, and in that meeting, they were much talking about their revising their mission statement, or at least revisiting it, and a bunch of other things. So until further notice, there hasn't been a 2024 meeting.
So that's an advisory.
It's an
Yeah.
advisory
to the
board.
Board of
Yeah.
Selectmen.
Board of
Correct.
Selectmen.
So that mission or that
So my
scope-
guess is that they're probably having to, I don't know, appoint 2 new people. And they haven't yet, so they're probably not meeting until they do. I don't
If they're
know.
revisiting the charge, probably, I wonder if it makes sense to appoint a new chair in conjunction with a
Exactly.
new charge, I don't know.
Well,
Sounded
I
very
think they appoint,
in
I think the
flux.
Board of Selectmen, and correct me if I'm misunderstand, but I think the Board of Selectmen appoints people to be on the commission.
Right, the
Yes.
the
Okay.
commission chooses the chair.
And then they vote on who is the chair.
Right.
Okay.
But what I'm pondering is, if the charge is being reviewed, as Paige suggests, are they waiting until
No,
the
the
charge
other
is
leases
clear?
were all due June 24.
Maybe,
Yeah.
I don't know. But they
I-
didn't meet in January, and they were supposed to, that's all I know.
Yeah, and in the
Supposed to meet on the
meantime-
10th, nothing
That's the
happened.
extension agreement.
Yeah, in the meantime, the swap shop is closed
No, no, no,
Correct.
all the others are
For
ready.
and is going to remain closed until, what, April
April
1st?
That's not related to.
It's not related
That's
at
not
all,
related.
no. And
That's
I
not
think
June
that was
15th.
part of their thing, is they didn't know, like, what oversight they had, if any. Like, it was just very unclear what their role is in the swap shop, what their role is in advising, and if they can, yeah, so, to be continued.
Yeah, I definitely,
But yeah, it had
Tho-
nothing to do with the,
Those who
Ed was
remain
in that
clear.
meeting
Yep.
in December and basically said he has to do some work there. It's a good time to shut it down in the colder months because
Yep, that's my understanding.
2024.
I don't think there's any, I'm not aware of any
there's
correlation.
not,
Yeah,
according to Ed, so.
So they have all
Yeah.
raised really.
So if you look at
That's
that
all I
thank
got.
you for that.
Yeah, no
extension that we
problem.
just voted on.
So
March
I'm going to hold off
It
unless there's a
acknowledges.
burning desire to talk about the budget. The budget's in this phase between Board of Selectmen and going to Board of Finance. We'll use next meeting to drill down on that. This was a good set the stage today.
so, to your knowledge, has the Board of Selectmen, or if anybody else knows, adopted a budget at this point?
Yeah, it's posted.
Okay.
It's posted.
Yep.
That was some of the adjustments we talked about. What Ed talked about today had been through Town Administrator, Board of Selectmen, and now it's going to Board of Finance. So let's plan to take that up. I'll put that on the agenda for March. I will circle back. I mentioned, I think I can't remember if I mentioned the whole committee, but as I mentioned to Ed, I did meet with First Selectman regarding reminding him or updating him on the resolution relating to the PIAC, and he will be joining us at a future meeting. And he did actually offer to come today, certainly it didn't make sense to
It'd be
dislodge,
interesting.
and especially in the middle of budget season. I am sensitive to the time, as you all know. I like to try to keep them to 90 minutes or less, unless there's something important. Are there any of the other focus areas that wish to report? Okay. With that, then, thank you very much.
Do we need a
Do we have to
motion?
adjourn?
Do we need a motion to adjourn?
Yes, who would move to adjourn?
How behind
To
you?
adjourn.
Behind us.
Okay.
And a second? There we go.